Thanks so much for tuning in to the Sustainable Brown Girl YouTube channel. This show exists to provide representation for women of color within the environmental space, to share their stories, and to inspire all to be more eco-friendly every day. I'm your host, Ariel Green. This is where you can see all of the full video podcast episodes. So be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. Also, go follow us on Instagram at Sustainable Brown Girl. Enjoy! Today's featured Sustainable Brown Girl is Anuella Alexander, also known as the Green Goddess Diary on Instagram, where she shares tips for plant parents and new gardeners. Anuela is also the founder of A Green Community, where she aims to connect families and children to nature. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yay! Yeah, so let's just start at the beginning. I always like to hear your origin story. So tell us how your sustainable journey began.
I'm not so sure that the journey began as I was dropped into the journey.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm. I'm from a little island by the name of Haiti. The whole island is La
Yes.
Hispaniola, and I am from a very rural area where it's filled with just like farmers and farmland. So that's what I knew for the first like 8 years of my life before I came to the United States. And I've always had this wonderful connection to plants and to nature. I've always found so much beauty in it. So I didn't stray too far from that, right? But of course, when you come here and you're an immigrant and your parents have like these American dreams for you, and none of it involves agriculture or plants or anything like that. You find yourself pursuing things that are not so much aligned with that. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
did. I guess when I fully took notice of this is what I want to do, this is how I want to live my life, is when I was really going through a horrible depression. I was living in Alaska as a behavioral health counselor, and
Wow.
like my partner and I had just split up. I had like a 2 year old baby, and all of these things, like huge life events, were happening in my life. And I don't know, I found myself just wanting to be better, feel better, do better, all of the things. And I think my son was a really huge catalyst in me figuring that out, because I weaned him off of breast milk and I started giving him regular milk, and he had a horrible reaction to it, like, and doctors couldn't really
Mm.
solve it. And I found myself having to do my own research. And that's kind of what tunneled me into like plant-based living and eating healthier. And also the children, or I mean, not say children, but the young adults that I was counseling, I was kind of implementing some of the things that I was learning with them too, to try to see if we could wean them off some medications and, implement a healthier lifestyle overall for them, so that they could feel their best mentally, emotionally, and physically. So there was a lot that um, it was a big accumulation of a lot of different things that were, of course, all in sync to get me to a point where I was really just like, okay, this is the life that I want to live. This is the lifestyle that I meant to embrace.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, I can totally see how that correlates to, I mean, sustainability isn't just using glass jars and, shopping secondhand. It's literally like a whole lifestyle change, you
Yes,
know?
yes, it is. Those are great steps to getting to that lifestyle. I try to not.
Yes.
I always tell people when I have consultations with clients, I let them know you don't want to do anything drastic when you're figuring things out in your life. You know how you want to live, changes that you want to make. You don't want to go too drastic. You want to just take like small little steps, and using mason jars, all of those things, making those little changes are great, like little starter goals to the bigger picture. So I love
Yes. Exactly. Yes, I love it. So you're from Haiti and then you lived in Alaska. Like those are completely different places. Like how I'm sure that that had a big thing to do with your mental health too, like with the, like such a big change.
Yes, yes. Wow. It seems like ages ago because it is ages ago. I only bring up
Yeah.
that part of my life because it's part of the story, but it's such a long
Yeah.
time ago. Oh my God, it's hard to remember. It's hard to even fathom that I did that because wow, the weather was insane.
Right.
The It didn't help that there was no sunlight for literally like 6 months when I was going through
Right.
those big life changes. It didn't help at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Wow. Oh
but
my
I
gosh.
found different joys. I found different ways to center myself and joy and wellness.
Hmm.
And I definitely give thanks to all of the research that I was doing and all of the people that I was able to find and blogs that I was able to read. Oh my goodness. Definitely had huge change of perspectives while I was there.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So tell us how a Green Goddess Diary came about.
Oh my gosh, girl. Okay, so this is the funnest story. So when I first moved back home to Florida, I met a friend, and her and I were just like two moms who really were in love with plant medicine, cannabis to be exact.
Hmm.
We were just like, man, I was in the mind frame of I don't want to like work for anybody, and she was in that same mind frame. So we started a business, and we called it the Green
Hmm.
Goddess Shop. And from then on, like we kind of eventually went our separate ways or whatever. And I did a little bit of soul searching because it wasn't. I really love that industry, but I realized that it was too limited here where I live in Florida. It was just way too limited, way too costly to
Hmm.
start up. And it just didn't feel, well, the things we were doing didn't feel completely aligned with who I was and the person that I was evolving into. So I let that go, and I really love the name because I felt like I embodied that person and I came up with the name and all of the things. So I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm just gonna try something out on social media. I'm gonna start a page where I try to influence or try to um, what's the word? Inspire. Yes, try
Inspire.
to influence
Hmm.
or inspire people to make the kind of life changes that they've been wanting to, but maybe they just don't know how, or they don't know what it looks like or what it could look like. So let me just put my life out there in that sense to see if people will respond well to it. And that was pretty much
Yeah.
how that page was born.
Yes. I love it. So, you said that you grew up. How old were you when you moved to the
I was
US?
8.5.
Okay. So you grew up on a farm, and how, like, at what point did you get back into like your natural roots? I mean, I guess you kind of said with your shop you started that, but like what exactly like kind of led to that?
Um, I think what led, I don't know that I ever really got out of it, to be honest.
Okay.
Because growing up, where I was always, into making natural things like with my hands, I've always
Yeah.
been really impressed with how much you can do with so little, and nature provides, it just all provided.
Mhm.
So let's say my mom would, I remember one of my earliest memories of being in the US was one day my mom was sick and she couldn't go into work, and I woke up, I was going to school, and I heard her like moaning or something in her room, and I went in there and she was just like, oh my gosh, my stomach hurts or something's going on. And my one of my favorite things to do was watch my grandma when I lived back on the islands with her, because I was raised for those 8 years by my grandma and my aunts and uncles. I didn't know my mom yet, right? So I used to wander around with her and just kind of like watch the way that she would pick certain plants, smell certain plants, try them in her mouth, like to identify things. It was just like really fascinating to me. Her wide range of like knowledge I felt like she just knew everything. And of
Yeah.
course, if you know anything about plants, you know that you're forever a student when it comes to that to that
Mm-hmm.
never
Mm-hmm.
know everything. You may know some things, but never everything. Um, so growing up, I feel like I was always that person in my friend group that would be like, "Oh, there's a tea for that," or "This plant is good for this," or whatever. But I never really thought it was a strength or it was anything. You know,
Yeah.
that wasn't really important to them anyway. I would make like face masks for myself and like look up stuff on like when YouTube first came out. Oh my gosh, I wanted to like make videos about like all of the things that I knew or whatever. But of course, I did not have the equipment. Didn't even have a phone. So so I never did any of those things. But
Yeah.
I've always just been. I've always a part of me has always known that that was knowledge that was sacred and knowledge that was important and that I needed to keep in my like in my mental like at the forefront of my mind.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. And that's such a great skill to have, to be able to take plants and, make them into medicine, especially when you were a child. Like, that was something that you were able to do. Like, that's incredible.
Yes, it was. And my mom told that story a million times. That's why that's
Oh,
why it's such a big memory for me because I remember she would tell it for ages, like forever. I was
yeah.
like by the time I was like 13, I had heard that story like 500 million times. Her
Wow.
to friends and relatives, you know, she was really taken aback by it too. And I didn't think it was anything. I didn't think it was anything wild because where I come from, that's what any other child my age who grew up where I grew up would have done. And that's just the way we're raised, you know?
Yeah, right. Wow. That's amazing. So, you are like this plant medicine woman. Um, Tell us, like, what is your mission on Instagram? I know you want to, help people to, well, just tell us. I'm not going to tell it for you. Like, what's your
I
mission?
mean, what the mission started out as,
Yeah.
what it is now.
Yeah.
Because the platform has changed so much, let's be honest.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the Instagram, I really have a weird relationship with it. Like, I want to go on there and ride for my people and let the people know the information and, you know, put out my knowledge and connect. But then I go on there and feel very suppressed. And I'm like,
Mm,
like, what is this? When I first got on there, it was really easy for me to just like write a post about like some plant and like tell you all the things about it. I really saw it as an educational platform. Like I'm going to
mhm,
be on here giving you educational value about something that you are interested in, and that was pretty much it. But now I'm finding that I really have to figure out how to change the way that I deliver that message. I really have to strategize a bit more and it's hard because I already do so much in my life where that is it takes a backseat, honestly. It takes a
mhm.
backseat.
Yeah.
And I share what I feel like sharing now, and sometimes I don't share for a long time, and I'm just kind of like, well, I have to figure out a different way to deliver the information, and maybe there's another platform or something that I can use to really get the information out without it feeling like it's suppressed. And I think that'll probably be TikTok, to be honest,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
because that seems to be the place where people go to um, be more free
Yeah.
without the algorithms, like
Right.
really constricting algorithms that we're noticing on some of these other platforms like Facebook and Instagram. I think it's a bit more freer platform, a bit more welcoming platform. So I'll probably take it there.
Mhm.
And the mission will always be to inform and to provide valuable information that people can use in their day to day to make certain changes, lifestyle changes that they want to implement long term versus um, here's what I'm doing in my life and I'm so perfect and I get everything right and like whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
definitely a place. where I want people to feel like, okay, it's okay if I'm not doing all of these things that society tells me I should be doing if I want to be a vegan, or if I want to be a plant-based person, or if I want to be a sustainable person. We feel oftentimes I feel like we put so much pressure and guilt on ourselves, whereas that's really not a place for us um to even go. Like, it doesn't belong to us. That guilt and that pressure doesn't belong to us. If we're honest, it belongs to bigger corporations that
Hmm.
are out here making the big decisions without really any input from us. They really don't care what we've got to say, right? So when it comes to
Yeah.
sustainability, you're using jars, you're using reusable things or whatever, and you always feel like you're not doing enough because every time you go to the store, something is encased in plastic,
Hmm.
or every time you want to buy something, it's packaged so there's just so much unnecessary garbage packaging. You feel so guilty with every purchase, but we need, it's out here for us. Like, we need it. It's just the companies that need making these changes. Just like with food, you go to the grocery store, you want to eat healthy, but like, oh, I can't go in the middle of this grocery store at all. Like, I can only
Hmm.
shop around the edges if I want to be like, a sustainable, like, plant-based person. So
Hmm.
I think it's important to have that kind of conversation where we resist and we erase these lines, these guidelines that we set for ourselves, in these narratives of like guilt and pressure and shame. And I don't know, just kind of like do better little at a time, but like not put such an immense um, weight on doing everything perfectly and right. That
Yes.
was, and I'm sorry about that, but
No, no, you're so right though. We really do put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect, but like you said, we can't be perfect because it's the corporations who are not making it easy for us.
not at all. They're really not.
Yeah. But one way that I know you are trying to educate people and, give them more information is through your organization, A Green Community.
Yeah.
So tell us more about that.
Yes, so I founded a green community a little after I started my Instagram page, and I really
Mhm.
started it because I visited a community garden and a underserved community very near me, a place that I grew up around, was part of my childhood, and I just fell in love. I fell in love with the concept that you could take something so beautiful and place it in such a rundown area, a forgotten area, and breathe life back into that community, back into that space. I saw how the people around that community looked at that garden when they came in, the sparkle in their eyes, and it made me so hopeful that I could do something like that. But for many different other communities, for schools or whatever, and also with my background in behavior counseling, I really wanted to do something that is pragmatic and that incites change in a way that I didn't see any examples of while I was doing that job. And what I mean by that is, for instance, we would get different young adults or whatever, and they would most definitely come from a behavioral health facility. And they would have like a bag of medications with them. They would have a
Wow.
of pills, antidepressants, and I'm talking about like 13, 12-year olds. One of my youngest was like 9, and they're
Wow.
taking these medications, and it's because they're depressed, or they're suicidal, or they have self-harming behaviors, and no one was really taking into account that. I mean, yes, there's a lot of different factors like households, parents, peers, all of these things, but no one was really taking into effect that the food that the children were eating was actually contributing to some of these issues, to some of these
Hmm.
health issues. And being a mother myself and seeing how, something as little as milk can affect my toddler, I knew firsthand that that is a very real contributor. Like food is a very real contributor to the way that we see and move throughout the world. And when I started making those changes in my son's diet and I started making it for the girls, I realized, there was a change happening. And so when I started this organization, I really wanted to use that experience and that knowledge in a way to make the same kind of changes, lasting changes here in my own community. So I started reaching out to different schools to see if they would be interested in me building a garden and building a garden curriculum to go along with their classes to see if we could teach their children K through 5, whatever the age is, where food comes from, teach them about nutrition, teach them about nature, combine the two, and see if it would create some kind of um, evolution in the way that they saw and interacted with food in their own environments, whether it was at the grocery store or at the dinner table at home. And that's just a very long explanation of
Yeah.
how this came about.
Yeah, wow. I do hear a lot about how, a certain diet can potentially, lead to behavioral issues. Like I've heard like the dye red 40 is really bad.
Really bad. I mean, all the dyes. Let's be
Yeah.
but yes, the red 40 is really bad. It's I haven't experimented on it with my own child, but I can
Mhm.
promise you that I've seen the effects of it on countless children. I think one of the saddest things I've ever heard from one of my kids was, I think we were growing blueberries and they were like, okay, I know what blueberry flavored things are, and I know blueberry makes my drink blue, which it
Mhm.
doesn't.
Mhm.
But like, what is a blueberry? So these are the
Wow,
kinds
yeah.
of minds that I'm trying to um, reshape and like take some things out and put some new things in because it's necessary. When you have children walking around thinking that blueberry is a flavor and they don't know that it's an actual berry, like a fruit, it's alarming. And we have a lot of that going on all around the US. It's not just like Florida or Alaska or any of the places that I've
Right.
talked about. It's literally all over. We're just unbalanced in that way where we've given so much of our attention to this industrialized place, this place of like work, make money, pay bills, the whole hamster wheel of it all. And we've kind of let our health decline, we've kind of let our health go, and it's not an equal payoff in my eyes. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't make sense, the math is not mathing. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. It's so important to introduce people to the way food is grown. Like I have a couple raised garden beds at the community garden, and just experimenting with growing things and just seeing how things grow gives you so much appreciation for the food you eat, and the farmers who give us our food. Like it's a lot of work, you know?
Oh yeah, we need to appreciate our farmers a little bit more.
Mhm.
It's something that always it's a conversation that always, it's a near and dear conversation to my heart, but it always feels like I'm breaking my own heart when I talk about Black farmers in America. And that's
Yeah,
fine. Once upon a time, we used to really revel in like the work of the land, like it was sacred work, and over the years, we've just slowly backed away from that thought. We've backed away from that reality. And now um, there's such a scarcity in Black farmers. There's such a
yeah,
scarcity in Black land ownership. We've just kind of really lost touch with the lands. And I get it. We have some traumatic history with the land here. It makes sense.
sure.
But I think it's I mean, I think it's time that we have that conversation and that we reclaim that for ourselves because there's so much innovation and ingenuity that goes into that kind of work. And Maybe it's not talked about enough, and maybe people feel like it's work that's less than, but really it's the best kind of work you could ever do. It's the best kind of knowledge you could ever have to be able to sustain yourself and your family and grow food, something that nourishes your body, something that you need in order to be alive. It's knowledge that
Mhm.
we should all have. It's knowledge that we all have a right to. Um, so
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, what's your big dream for a green community?
big dreams. I literally have it on my whiteboard right now.
Yes, vision board. Okay,
Yeah, so
sis.
I really, really want to have this organization be a part of all of the Title I schools in my county. I live in Palm Beach County,
Hmm.
Florida. I'm currently at one school. I've worked with a few public schools, I mean, private schools, but my goal is to have this program implemented in all of the schools around here because it's necessary. And the problem that I'm solving is really having someone that cares, or just having an entity that cares about a garden, that cares about the education that's coming from that garden, and will upkeep it and keep it looking fresh and new and replant it every season, because that's something that's really hard to find here. You have a teacher that's interested in gardening, and then let's say, like, they go to another school, or they get promoted to something else, and that garden is just left alone
Yeah.
and done. No one else is going to touch it, guaranteed. I promise you.
Mm,
If you aren't already apt to take on such a project, it can be a lot on top of the workload that a teacher is already experiencing. Because,
right.
as schools are underfunded and teachers are,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's one of the big dreams that I have. The other big dream that I have is to be able to bring this knowledge to people on some sort of platform. I don't know what that is. I've considered like an app thing in the past, so maybe it could be something like that. But I want to find a way to bring the things that I do in schools, or the classes that I teach, and the workshops that I'm facilitating, to someone in the comfort of their home, because there are people, I realize, accessibility is a huge thing for the work that I do. Cars, you don't have transportation, you can't get there, you can't pay for a workshop. There's a lot of different things that hinder a person from accessing this knowledge and accessing this experience. So I want to be able to package it up in some way and send it off to someone's home. And maybe that looks like a subscription box. Maybe it looks like just having tangible things that you can order off a website, an e-commerce type of thing. I
Yeah.
don't really know yet, but that's a really big goal of mine. And I am kickstarting off a program right now called No Gardener Left Behind. And this is for folks who have homes, who have backyards, but do not have the funds to start a garden, because starting a garden is not cheap. If
Right.
you've ever started one, it will run you at least $200-300 when you're
Right.
talking about building material. If you want to raise bed, soil, mulch, plants, fertilizer, all of the things that go into creating life in a garden costs money. Home Depot is profiting, okay, and we need off of me at least. So I
Yep.
started this program called No Gardener Left Behind for folks who qualify, and I'm actually putting together that application today for my site. For folks who qualify to get funded, I organize a volunteer crew. I raise the money. We consult with the client or the applicant, and build them a new garden in just under 24 hours, and teach them
Wow.
how to grow the food, and come back and give them like at least 3 lessons so that they can continue doing it themselves. I think this is in a way going to help the people in the communities that need it the most. There are plenty of people who live in the kind of neighborhoods where, yeah, they can afford a home, but they're working all the time just to make sure, like the taxes and the things are paid off in that home, and extra money is just not even a subject. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great program that I'm hoping rolls out by this month. I'm also facilitating a huge Earth Day event, and this is my first event, like big event that I'm hosting myself since COVID. So I'm really proud of doing this.
Yeah.
This is going to be a huge Earth Day event. I partnered up with Westgate Community Farms in my community where we are gathering volunteers to revamp the children's garden because that really went awry during COVID. Like weeds are everywhere. It's
Mm.
girl, it's horrible. So we're just like,
Oh no.
okay, let's take a day. Let's bring the community together. Like we're gonna get food and t-shirts and music and like different vendors and things. So make it really a family fun oriented day, but we're also working and revamping this.
Right.
So that's
Right.
one. I think those are probably all of my goals. Other than that, it's just to do more consultations and figure out a way to build this business to get to that point where I'm speaking to people just not just in Florida but outside of Florida too, because I'm forever studying and putting myself in situations where those opportunities can kind of arise, but it's not as frequent as I would like. So those
Hmm.
are like my big, big goals.
Yes, yes, I love all of it, especially how you're going to be helping people to grow their gardens and like get them started because like you said there's a barrier of entry. So being able to help people, start growing their own food and like self-sustain because then once once one person has that skill, then they can kind of pass it on to other people. So you're really like, spreading the word throughout your community.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's amazing. And so tell me a little bit more about your consultations because you mentioned it a couple of times. This is what is that?
Yeah, so I offer consultations to folks who want a green space. I
Okay.
am a green space designer
Nice.
because I feel like saying like garden or whatever is a little limiting because I love all plants and
Yeah.
I think all plants contribute to a green space. So in my
Right.
home, I've built a plant wall and I've consulted a couple people on how to build their own plant wall. So things that I feel like just all of the knowledge that I've accumulated over the years, people want access to, but they want it from a person that they trust and that
Mhm.
has done the work and has experience, and that's me. So they come to me all the time with questions about gardening, questions about landscaping, questions about soil regeneration, questions about building a green space within their homes, house plants. I'm a really big advocate in including greenery into the house because it's a place that we spend a lot of time, especially during quarantine. I got a shit ton of new plants during quarantine.
Yes.
Still hurt. Like
Love it.
like I was really fortunate. I count myself as a really fortunate person to have the means to be able to afford such a luxury in a way because the plants have become a very like commodified thing.
Mhm.
Instead of like, oh, this is nature and it's free and I can have it. It now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, rare plants and like, oh, like it's just we're seeing. I feel like the plant world or nature is becoming just as gentrified as some of the city.
Facts. Yes, 100%.
And it sucks. I hate that so
Yeah.
much, but that's just what it is. That's just what's happening. And it's not bad for business for me, but I have this outlook on it where like, God, I really wish that wasn't the case. And
Yeah.
consulting people about their plans, it's a great opportunity for me to introduce them to like different plants that they didn't know about or to introduce them to different kinds of green space organizings. Like somebody might really be into houseplants, but they really don't know how to grow a carrot.
Right.
Or vice versa. Somebody's like, oh, I only want to grow, like things I can eat. Like, forget those house plants, they can't feed me. But at the same time, they clean the air in your home. Like,
Yeah.
being able to introduce them to new information. That's basically what I do when I consult a client. I've consulted about building green walls. I've consulted about like having green spaces in offices and doing research and running up numbers for different clients on how having green spaces in their facilities can actually improve the functionality of their whole business, of their employees, of the people that come into their business. It's just one of those things that I really believe is a cure all, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
We need it in so many different capacities, in so many different areas in our lives, in so many different places and spaces that we inhibit. So, yeah.
Yes, 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 100%. Plants can be used in so many ways. You can eat them, you can look at them, you can use them as medicine. And apparently, you were like the green goddess. You know all of the things. You were educating everybody, and I am here for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am also here for it because I do it every day.
Right. I love it. So tell everyone how they can like support you and, just help you reach all your dreams or even work with you.
Yeah, I'm very open to collaborations. I
Mhm.
feel like it is something I've always wanted to do. I feel like I don't get to do too many collaborations. So please reach out to me, girl, guy, non binary person. You know who you are. If you want
Mhm.
to work with me, if you want to talk with me, if you just want to, like, connect in any way, you can find me on Instagram at the Green Goddess Diary, or you can find me under a green community. And I think there's no FL on there. I'm pretty sure there isn't. I think it's just a green community. If there is an FL, I'm sorry.
We'll put the links in
We'll
the
put the links.
in the
You
box.
can find me there. You can shoot me an email at agreencommunity@gmail.com. I answer to those pretty quickly. Um, And yeah, those are all of my handles. And I promise
Yeah.
to welcome you with a super awkward hello when you
I love it.
DM me. 'Cause I'm
Awesome.
awkward black girl. I really am.
Hey, it happens to the best of us. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us on Wayla. And our last question is, what does being a sustainable brown girl mean to you?
Ooh, ooh, this is good. I'm like, what does it mean to me? It means so much. I think being a sustainable brown girl is someone, well, at least for me, is someone who just really cares about um, what we allow in our communities as Black and Brown people. Like, if we're looking at it from an environmental justice lens, then it really means, watching different bills and different laws that are set into place. It means really honing in on some of these skills, like our God given skills to be able to grow and to reap what we sow. It means advocating for the land that we're on. It means making sure, well, we can't really make sure, but making sure that we're at least trying to do something so that these huge corporations don't end up having the last say in what is built in our communities and what's allowed to go in our communities, because that is our sacred land. We need to keep it safe. We need to keep it free of all of these chemicals and um, things that they put into our soils. Like, it's our responsibility to address those issues and to advocate for ourselves and stand strong in what we believe. Uh, and that is the most I've got there.
Yeah, no, that's great. I totally agree. Very well said. Very well said. It's definitely up to us to make sure that we keep our communities the way that we'd like to see them and, keep that control or take back that control. And it seems like you were doing that through educating the children and the families in your community and just making sure that everyone has access to the best possible um, resources. So,
Yeah.
yes, thank you so much for what you're doing. And thank you so much for joining us
Thank you
today.
so much. I appreciate you. Until next time, okay? All
Yes.
right.
Don't leave just yet. Click here to hear from another Sustainable Brown Girl, or click here to watch the full playlist from this season.